The sun was warm and the wind soft on the plains of Zeratha, a peaceful alien planet full of green fields and wildflowers that glowed faintly in the light. The sky was purple, with two moons hanging above like soft eyes watching the world below. In the middle of those fields, a small alien child laughed with joy. Her name was Zira. She had bright blue skin, silver hair tied into braids, and big, curious eyes. She wore a light riding cloak and sat proudly on top of a tall tornax, a creature that looked like a horse but had curved horns and scales along its back. The tornax was gentle, well-trained, and it loved Zira like a sister. "Go, Tala. Faster," Zira giggled, patting the creature's neck. The tornax ran joyfully through the grass and Zira held on tight. It was her first solo ride. She was only 10, but her family was powerful. Her father was a chieftain of the Lunari clan, known for their wisdom and peacekeeping. She had been trained well. Up on a hill, two guards from her clan watched carefully, holding long spears. "She rides well," one of them said. "She has her mother's courage," said the other. But they didn't see the danger waiting. Not far away, hidden behind a tall patch of burning red grass, something watched with golden eyes. It was a scar lion, a six-eyed predator native to the wild zones of Zeratha. Its fur was striped with orange and black. Its teeth were sharp enough to bite through bone. It hadn't eaten in days, and now it had found easy prey. Zira. She didn't hear the growl, didn't see the grass moving behind her. She was too happy, her voice singing an old riding song her mother had taught her. But the tornax felt it. It stopped suddenly. Its ears flicked back. Its body stiffened. Zira leaned forward. "Tala, what's wrong?" Then, a roar, loud, wild, terrifying. The scar lion leapt from the grass with claws out, jaws wide. It flew through the air like a missile. Zira screamed. The tornax reared up and turned to run, but the lion was too fast. The guards on the hill saw the movement and yelled, "Protect the child!" But they were too far, too slow. The lion was just a breath away from Zira. And then, he appeared. Out of nowhere, from the edge of a cliff above the field, a figure jumped, high and fast, like a falling star. It was a human. He wore old armor made of leather and steel. A tattered brown cloak flew behind him. He held a long spear in one hand, and his left arm was made of dark metal, shining with lights, a cyber arm. He dropped straight between Zira and the lion, slamming into the ground with a powerful crack. The earth shook. Zira blinked, frozen. The lion roared and lunged again, but the human didn't run. He raised the spear and spun, faster than any alien warrior Zira had seen. He struck the lion in the shoulder, pushing it back. The beast slashed with its claws. The human dodged and rolled. The fight was wild, savage and fast. Zira stared, heart pounding. The lion leapt again. The human roared back, and this time, his metal arm grabbed the lion's neck and smashed it into the ground. Dust flew. The lion whimpered, stood for a moment, then limped away, wounded, confused, and defeated. The human turned to Zira. His face was rough, dirty, and scarred. His eyes were brown, deep, and calm. "Are you all right?" he asked. Zira nodded slowly. Her voice was a whisper. "You saved me." He gave a small smile. "Good. Then stay still. You're safe now." And then, he collapsed. The guards reached them seconds later. They surrounded the human with spears raised. Zira jumped off the tornax and stood between them. "Don't hurt him," she shouted. "He saved my life." The guards hesitated. One of them checked the human's pulse. "He's alive, but badly hurt." "Get the healer," the other said, "and alert the elders." They looked down at the strange man. Who is this human? And what is he doing in our lands? No one had the answer. But Zira looked at his face and whispered, "I don't know who he is, but I want to." Far above on the cliff where the man had jumped, something else watched, a dark shape with glowing red eyes. It turned and disappeared into the wind. The rescue was only the beginning. They carried him through the village like he was fire, dangerous, powerful, and not to be touched without fear. The human's body was bleeding, bruised, and burned in places. His left side was cut deep where the lion's claws had reached him. But even half-conscious, he gripped his spear tight. Even in pain, he looked like a warrior ready to fight again. Zira walked beside the stretcher the whole way. She didn't say much, but her eyes never left him. "He saved me," she whispered again and again, like a promise to herself. The villagers gathered as the guards brought him to the healing hall, a tall structure shaped like a silver tree. The alien elders stood near the entrance, their long robes flowing in the soft wind. "What is this?" one elder asked sharply. "Why is there a human in our sacred land?" The guard answered, "He saved the chieftain's daughter." The elder looked at Zira. "Is this true?" She stepped forward, lifting her chin. "He jumped off a cliff to protect me. Fought the lion with only a spear and a metal arm. He didn't run. He didn't hesitate." The elder frowned. "Still, humans are not allowed here. They are banned. You know this." Zira's voice didn't shake. "So we punish him for saving a child's life?" That silenced them all. Inside the healing hall, the human was placed on a glowing stone bed. The room filled with soft light as the alien healers examined him. One placed her hand above his chest, reading his heartbeat with energy waves. "He is strong," she said. "But he's been carrying wounds much older than this lion." Another healer removed his torn shirt. They gasped. His body was covered in scars, burns, blade cuts, and strange circle-shaped marks that glowed faintly under the skin. "What kind of human is this?" one asked. Zira stepped closer, studying the metal arm. It wasn't a common cybernetic. It looked hand-built, patched with different materials. Old Earth tech mixed with alien tools. "He's not just a fighter," she said. "He's a survivor." Hours passed. The village elders met in a round room lit by fire crystals. Some wanted to send the human away once he recovered. "Too dangerous," they said. Others argued, "He saved our chieftain's child. We owe him." The oldest elder, Marnak, stood and spoke. "There is something strange about this man," he said slowly. "Long ago, the old stories spoke of warriors who could fight beasts with no fear, men who could command wild animals like brothers. They were said to have silver in their bodies and lightning in their hearts." He looked toward the healing hall. "Maybe this man is one of them." The room went quiet. That night, Zira sneaked into the healing hall while everyone slept. The human lay still, breathing softly. His eyes were closed, but his hand twitched from time to time as if still gripping his weapon. Zira sat beside him and placed a small flower on the table. A blue flamed sky bloom. A flower of gratitude. She whispered, "My name is Zira. You don't know me, but you saved me. So, thank you." To her surprise, the man opened one eye. "You're welcome," he said, voice rough like stone. She jumped. "You're awake." "Barely." She smiled. "What's your name?" "Dane," he said. Zira tilted her head. "Where are you from?" Dane stared at the ceiling. "Nowhere important. You don't talk much, do you?" "Not unless I have to." She was quiet a moment. "You know, they're afraid of you." He smirked. "They should be." "Why?" He looked at her finally. "Because I've seen monsters far worse than lions, and I didn't run from them either." Zira's smile faded slightly. "So, you're used to saving people?" Dane shook his head. "No. Most don't let me." Zira stood. "Well, I'm glad I did." She walked to the door, then stopped. "I hope you heal fast. I want to learn how you fought like that." Dane closed his eyes again. "You're brave, kid." Zira smiled again and whispered, "So are you." Outside the healing hall, hidden in the trees, a shadow watched. It was not happy. It whispered into a small black device. "The human lives. He's talking to the girl." The reply crackled. Then he must disappear before the child trusts him too much. The wind on Zeratha carried more than air. It carried secrets. That night, the peaceful fields slept The moonlight touched the silver leaves of the high trees, and soft glows blinked in the tall grass. But hidden behind the beauty, someone was watching. His name was Velk, a warrior of the Lunari clan, a skilled fighter, and one who had trained his whole life to protect Zira. He had expected to be her shield, her hero. But a human had done what he couldn't, and that burned inside him like poison. Inside the healing hall, Dane slowly sat up. His body still ached, but his wounds were healing faster than expected. Alien tech mixed with old human implants. His body was used to pain, and his blood carried something not fully natural. He looked out the window and saw only trees. But his instinct said otherwise. Someone was there. Zira returned the next morning with a bag of food and a carved wooden charm. "I made this," she said shyly. "For protection. My mother taught me how." Dane took it without a smile, but with respect. "Thank you." "You're healing fast," she said, looking at the bandages. He gave a short nod. "Too fast, maybe?" Zira blinked. "What do you mean?" He looked at her, serious. "When your body learns to heal from battle, it means it's been through too much of it." She sat beside him. "Why do you fight?" Dane stared at his metal hand. "Because no one else would." That evening, the animals in the nearby forest began acting strange. Birds flew in circles. Small creatures hid in burrows. The Tornax herds gathered in tight groups, eyes wide. Old warriors said it meant a storm was coming. But this wasn't weather. Velk met with two masked aliens in the shadows of the temple ruins outside the village. They wore traveler robes, but their eyes were cold. Velk handed them a crystal. "He's in the healing hall, alone tonight." One alien asked, "Why do you betray your own kind?" Velk's jaw tightened. "I'm not betraying, I'm protecting. That human is dangerous. If the girl bonds with him, she'll trust his ways, not ours." The second alien smiled. "Then tonight, he disappears." But the wind whispered again, and Zira listened. She had been walking near the temple ruins, carrying herbs for the healers when she heard the voices. She didn't understand all the words, but she heard enough. "He disappears." Her heart pounded. She ran back to the village. That night, Dane sat alone in the healing hall. The lights were dim. His spear rested beside him. His wounds had closed, but the pain in his arm remained, a reminder that peace never lasted long. Suddenly, the door creaked. Dane grabbed his spear, but it was only Zira, out of breath, eyes wide. "You're in danger," she whispered. "They're coming." Dane stood slowly. "Who?" "I heard warriors talking. They want to kill you." Dane's face didn't show fear, just readiness. "How many?" "I don't know, but they're not from here." "Strangers." Dane moved fast. He pulled a strap over his shoulder and secured his spear to his back. "You need to stay here," he said. "No," Zira said firmly. "I'm going with you." "It's not safe." She stepped forward. "It wasn't safe when the lion came either, but you didn't leave me then." Dane looked at her for a moment, then gave a small nod. "All right, but stay close." They left through a hidden side door, walking quickly into the trees. Behind them, three shadows entered the healing hall, and found nothing but an empty bed. The first assassin hissed, "He knew." The second snarled, "The girl warned him." The third activated a tracking drone. Then they both die. Deep in the forest, Dane and Zira moved quietly. Suddenly, Dane stopped. The wind had changed. He grabbed Zira's hand and pushed her behind a tree. Then he whispered, "They're here." A sharp noise flew past, a dart fast as lightning. It hit the tree where Zira's head had been just seconds ago. Dane rolled forward, pulling Zira with him. Three masked attackers stepped into the clearing. One said, "Surrender, human. The girl doesn't need to die." Dane growled, "She never will." He pulled his spear, and the fire returned to his eyes. The forest was burning, with light, not fire. As the masked attackers lunged forward, Dane moved like lightning. His spear spun in wide arcs, striking fast and sharp. Each blow was precise. 2, precise for a simple traveler. His metal arm hummed with strange energy, glowing brighter with every hit. Zira hid behind a rock, her hands shaking. She had never seen him fight like this. He didn't just defend, he predicted, as if he had seen this battle before, as if fighting was his second nature. One attacker leapt toward him with a plasma knife. Dane caught the blade in his bare hand. It sizzled. He didn't scream. He just looked into the attacker's eyes and said, "You don't know what I am." With a final strike, he dropped all three. The forest fell silent again, but Zira's heart didn't stop racing. Later, as the stars came out above the trees, Dane sat beside the stream, washing the blood from his cybernetic hand. Zira stood nearby, silent. She didn't know what to say. He looked up. "You're scared?" She nodded. "Not of you. Of what I don't understand." He sighed. "Then I owe you the truth." He pulled his shirt aside, revealing not just scars, but symbols burned into his skin. Ancient circular marks, some glowing faintly with blue lines, some shaped like beasts. Zira stepped closer. "What are those?" "Memories," Dane said. "From a time before peace, from a war that never made it into your books." Dane stared into the water, voice low. "I was born on a forgotten Earth colony, raised by people who believed in something older than machines. We were trained not to run but to stand between life and death. We were called protectors." Zira blinked. "I've heard that name, in bedtime stories. But I thought they were myths. We were real," he said. "But the galaxy didn't want us." He clenched his metal hand. "We learned to bond with wild beasts, to speak their language, to fight not with hate, but with instinct. We didn't control animals. We respected them." Zira looked down. "Like the lion." He nodded. "That lion wasn't evil, just hungry, lost, like most of us." She sat beside him. "What happened to the protectors?" Dane's face darkened. "Betrayed, hunted, erased. The Empire feared us, said we were too wild, too unpredictable. They spread lies, called us dangerous. So they burned our villages, poisoned our animals, chased us into the stars." Zira was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "Are you the last one?" Dane looked up at the stars. "I thought I was. Until I saw how your Tornax listened to you. How you didn't use fear, but care. You reminded me of who I was." Zira's voice trembled. "But I'm just a child." He smiled. "So was I when they trained me." Suddenly the bushes nearby rustled. Dane stood instantly, ready to fight again. But it wasn't an enemy. It was the lion, the same beast that had attacked Zira days ago. It stepped forward slowly, eyes glowing under the moonlight. Zira gasped. "Run!" "But," Dane raised his hand. "No." He stepped forward, eyes calm. The lion growled. Dane whispered, "I know you." He knelt down. The lion stared. Then, slowly, it bowed its head. Zira's mouth opened in shock. "You're taming it?" Dane shook his head. "I'm respecting it." The lion came closer and sat beside Dane like a silent guardian. Zira stepped forward, heart pounding. "Can I touch it?" Dane nodded. "Only if you're calm. It feels your heart." Zira reached out slowly and touched its mane. It didn't move. It just closed its eyes. And Zira smiled. That night, they slept beside the lion under the trees. And Zira asked softly, "Dane, why did you really save me?" He opened one eye. "Because once when I was a child, no one did." She held the sky bloom charm she had given him days ago. "I'm glad I found you." He looked at her. "No, Zira. You saved me. You reminded me why I exist." Far away in the village, Elder Marnak stood at the edge of the cliff staring into the stars. He whispered to himself, "A child who bonds with beasts. A protector reborn. The galaxy is not ready for what comes next. The stars above the Lunari village were calm, but underneath them betrayal was blooming like poison in the dark. Velk sat alone in the high watchtower, sharpening his blade. Below, the villagers danced around fires. It was the Night of Moons, a peaceful celebration, held once a year to honor the spirits of beasts. But Velk didn't care for stories or lights. His heart burned with something else. Jealousy. He was supposed to be the one Zira looked up to. He had trained since he was a child to guard her, protect her. Now she followed the human like a loyal cub. And worse, the lion had bowed to the outsider. Velk's knuckles turned white as he gripped the hilt of his blade. "They all forgot who I am," he whispered. "Then I'll remind them." Far beyond the fires, in a quiet clearing, Zira sat beside Dane and the lion they now called Shadowmane. The great beast rested peacefully, head on its paws, eyes closed. Zira ran her fingers through its mane and whispered, "Do you think it dreams?" Dane nodded slowly. "All creatures dream. The question is, do they remember?" Zira smiled. "I want to remember this moment forever." But Dane was quiet. His fingers tapped against the ground. His cybernetic arm twitched slightly. Zira noticed. "What's wrong?" He looked at the trees. "We're being watched." A horn echoed across the forest. Not a warning horn. A call to arms. Suddenly the air shifted. Birds flew upward. Insects stopped chirping. Zira stood up quickly. "What is it?" Dane's eyes narrowed. "It's a setup." He pulled Zira close and Shadowmane rose to its feet, teeth showing. From the shadows, figures emerged. Lunari guards wearing war paint. And at the front stood Velk, his blade glowing with a red crystal. Zira gasped. "Velk?" He didn't look at her. "By order of the elders," he declared, "the human known as Dane is charged with endangering the clan, releasing wild beasts, and corrupting the chieftain's daughter." Dane raised an eyebrow. "Funny. I thought saving her life was the crime here." Velk's voice was cold. "You brought the lion, you tamed it. Now more gather near the valley. They are preparing for something. You changed the natural order." Zira stepped in front of Dane. "He didn't bring them, they came to him like they came to me." Velk's hand twitched. "He poisoned your mind, Zira. Don't you see? He's not like us. He's a human." Zira's voice didn't shake. "He's a protector, like the ones in the old stories," Velk snapped. "Then the stories are lies." He raised his hand, and from the shadows, a captured creature was dragged forward, wounded, angry, afraid. A massive beast with 4 legs, sharp horns, and bleeding wounds. One of the guards held a control staff, a cruel device used to send pain signals into the beast's brain. Zira screamed. "What are you doing?" Velk grinned. "I'm proving. He controls them." He turned to Dane. "Call it off. Tell it to stand down, or it dies." Dane's face went dark. His voice was cold steel. "You're hurting an innocent creature to prove a lie." Velk stepped forward. "Then stop me. Use your power. Show them you're not a danger." Zira cried out. "Don't. He's trying to trap you." But Dane walked forward. He dropped his spear. He knelt in front of the beast. And then, he didn't speak with words. He closed his eyes and reached with his heart. The energy pulsed from his body. The wounded beast stopped thrashing. Its breathing slowed. Dane placed a hand on its head. The creature whimpered, then bowed. The control staff sparked and broke in the guard's hand. Velk stepped back. "No, that's not possible." The guards looked at each other, unsure now. Zira ran to Dane's side, smiling through tears. "You saved it." But Dane was staring at Velk. "I didn't command it, I simply listened." Velk, furious, pulled his blade. "Then you can listen to this." But before he could strike, Shadowmane roared. The force of it knocked Velk off. His feet. The lion stood over him, growling. Dane didn't move. "You drew your blade on the child," he said. "That makes you the danger." Velk looked up, face pale. "You're not supposed to be real." Dane turned away. "I'm not. I'm just a man who refused to run. The village heard the roar. The elders saw the guards return with lowered weapons, and they saw the lion, walking beside the human and the girl. For the first time in 100 years, a protector had returned, but this time he wasn't alone. The morning sky over Zeratha turned golden. Clouds drifted slow and gentle, and the twin suns stretched light across the valley like warm hands waking the world. In the center of the Lunari village, every voice fell silent, because for the first time since ancient days, a lion walked through their streets without a cage, and beside it, riding tall on her horned tornax, sat a girl, not just any girl. Zira. She wore a dark riding cloak with glowing threads gifted by the elders, her silver hair now tied with feathers of a skyhawk. On her belt hung a charm of beastbone, a sign of trust from the wilds. Beside her, walking silently and watching everything, was Shadowmane, the lion who had once nearly taken her life. Behind them walked Dane, the human stranger no longer seen. As an outsider, but as a symbol, the villagers didn't cheer. They didn't bow. They watched, in stillness and awe, because something in the wind had changed. Up at the cliffs, Elder Marnak stood with his staff. He turned to the others and said, "You asked for proof. Here it is." Another elder whispered, "She is becoming something we've not seen in generations." "She's becoming a bridge," Marnak said, "between fear and understanding." Zira guided her tornax toward the training field, the place where young warriors learned to ride and protect. Dozens of other children were gathered there waiting for her. They looked scared. Zira smiled and called out, "Don't be afraid." One small child stepped forward, pointing at the lion. "Is it safe?" Zira nodded and slid off her mount. "He's not just safe. He's family." She walked up to Shadowmane and placed her hand gently on his mane. He didn't growl. He didn't move, he just sat proudly. Zira turned to the children. "Do you want to know what he taught me?" They nodded. "That fear doesn't always mean run. Sometimes it means listen." Meanwhile, Dane sat under the shade of an old tree, watching quietly. He didn't smile often, but this time he did. A soft, tired smile, the kind that said something. Broken had finally started to heal. Velk approached slowly from behind. He didn't wear his armor. His head was lowered. "I was wrong," he said quietly. Dane didn't look up. "You were angry. You thought she was yours to protect." "I understand." Velk sat beside him. "And now?" Dane finally turned. "Now, we protect her together." Velk nodded. "And if the outsiders come?" Dane's voice was calm. "Then they'll find more than just a lion waiting." That evening, Zira rode again, this time through the outer fields, toward the edge of the wild. Dane walked beside her. Shadowmane followed quietly. Zira looked at him. "Do you miss your people?" He nodded. "Every day. Do you think any of them are still alive?" "Maybe, somewhere. But I stopped searching long ago." Zira was quiet. Then she said, "What if we started something new?" He looked up. A new order, not just protectors, something better, something shared. He raised an eyebrow. Shared? Between humans and aliens, between children and beasts, between those who listen and those who want to learn. Dane gave a slow smile. "You'd need a name." She grinned. "How about the Bond Keepers?" Dane nodded. "I like it." That night, while the valley slept, lights began appearing in the forests. Not fire, not ships, eyes, dozens, lions, wolves, birds, beasts with horns and wings. Quiet. Watching. Waiting. Dane stood at the edge of the village and whispered, "They know." Zira stood beside him, holding a small torch. "They're not here to fight," she said. "They're here to follow." He looked at her. "You're not just riding anymore, you're leading." She shook her head. "No. We're riding together, all of us." And in the distance, in a dark chamber on another planet, a commander watched the footage. A black-gloved hand paused on Zira's image. "This is spreading," he said. Behind him, a soldier asked, "Do we act now?" "No," the commander replied. "Let them rise. Let them build their little peace. And when they shine brightest, we will strike." But in Zeratha, the people slept without fear, because for the first time in a generation, the lions no longer roared in hunger, the children no longer feared the wild, and a human no longer walked alone. The night was silent, not empty, listening. On the edge of Zeratha's forest, under a sky full of stars, 2 moons hung like gentle eyes over the valley. The wind moved soft between trees and across rooftops, as if the planet itself was holding its breath because something was about to begin, or something was about to end. Zira stood barefoot in the grass, her cloak brushing the earth. Her silver hair glowed faintly under the moons. Shadowmane, the great lion who once tried to kill her, now sat at her side like a guardian spirit. In her hand, she held a carved horn, the signal of unity, a sacred relic, never blown in living memory. Behind her stood Dane, the human protector who had once fallen from the cliff to save her. His armor was worn, his spear was chipped, but his eyes burned steady. Together they waited. In the distance, fires blinked across the hills. Not wildfires, torches, enemy torches. A massive force marched across Zeratha. Creatures with collars, beasts trained with pain, soldiers wearing masks that hid their fear behind cruelty. They came from a rival empire, one that saw Zira's growing bond with nature, beasts and people as a threat to control. They called it chaos. Zira called it trust. And now, they came to burn it all down. Inside the Lunari Council Hall, elders argued, "We must flee. There are too many. We cannot let a child lead our defense," but Marnak the eldest stood and raised his hand. "We've run for generations. From war, from wilds, from the truth." He turned to face the others. "But tonight we stand, not behind a child, but with her." Outside, Zira raised the horn to her lips. She closed her eyes. Thought of her first ride. Thought of Dane. Thought of the lion's roar. And she blew. The sound that came was not loud but deep. It rolled through the earth, it trembled in the trees. It whispered into caves and cracked stones. And from the shadows they came. Not just lions. Not just wolves. Not just beasts with scales and wings. But all of them. Every creature that had ever been saved, fed, touched, or respected by Zira or Dane. Answered. From the skies, great hawks flew in circles. From the woods, massive hounds and horned deer came running. From underground, scaled burrowers rose and clicked. And on a distant cliff, even the broken beast Dane once healed roared in answer. The army saw it too. "Sir," a soldier said, his voice shaking, "they're not fighting alone." The commander stepped forward. "Then we burned the beasts first." But when fire met the valley, it didn't consume. Because Zira had not gathered an army. She had awakened a bond. The creatures didn't charge blindly. They moved like wind and water. With her, Zira rode Tala, her tornax, through the field fast and fearless. Shadowmane ran beside her, leading the front. The skybirds soared above, dropping nets and stones from the sky. Dane fought through the heart of the battle like fire in human form. Not to kill, but to protect. Every time a child screamed, he was there. Every time a creature was hurt, he defended. And the enemy? They were trained to command but not to listen. They ordered, they whipped. Their beasts didn't obey, and slowly, their lines broke. In the middle of the fight, Zira came face to face with the masked commander. He raised a high-tech rifle. "You think you've built something strong?" he hissed. "This is just madness, chaos. It cannot last." Zira stared at him, calm. "Then why are your beasts leaving you?" He turned. The hound beside him was walking away. To her. He screamed and pulled the trigger. But the blast never hit. Dane stepped in the way. The shot struck his shoulder, throwing him back. Zira screamed, jumped down, and ran to him. Dane! He groaned, blood dripping from his wound. Still standing. She held him tight. Don't you leave me. He looked up at her through the pain. Don't need to. You already know what to do. She turned, raised the broken spear, lifted it high. And the bond pulsed, a wave of light, blue, gold, and green rushed across the valley. It didn't destroy. It healed. The wounded creatures stood. The broken weapons melted. The enemy soldiers dropped to their knees, many crying. The commander fell to the ground, his weapon gone. Zira didn't say a word. She didn't need to. When the light faded, the battle was over. Not won by force, but by understanding. Days later, a message was sent across the stars. It carried no threats, no promises of war, just a simple story. A girl once rode a horse through a peaceful field. A lion attacked. A human saved her. And from that moment, a world was changed. Epilogue. The bond keepers rose from the ashes of battle. Not warriors, not rulers, but bridges between wild and civilized, between human and alien, between fear and hope. Zira became their voice, Dane their guardian, and Shadowmane. He became the symbol carved into every new flag. Where once stood walls, they built schools, for children, for creatures, for anyone who wished to learn the bond. And when visitors asked Zira how it all began, she would smile and say, "It began when someone chose to leap instead of look away."